All right, welcome to UPod to Win the Game. I am Charles Robinson here today with Dan Wetzel.
That's right.
Charles McDonald.
What's good?
We're going to get to the NFL news today, but first and foremost, I know it's way down the budget, but I'm going to bump it to the top. Aaron Rodgers is in line to make $60 million next year, and he apparently needs to make this decision by turning out the lights for 4 days in a tiny house, I guess hoping to hallucinate, and fucking L. Ron Hubbard tells him to take the $60 million and play in the NFL in 2023. I'm at a loss at this point with Rodgers, what we're doing here, but apparently he needs to make the decision by having some quiet time, taking a time out from his really rough, stressful life, and deciding whether or not to take $60 million next season.
I think quiet time might be underselling it. Like what he's actually about to undergo here. My read on it is he's paying to torture himself. Like he's going into a dark room where they drop food down there for 2 times a day or something like that, and he's just going to sit in this dark room for 4 days and trip balls. Like, that sounds horrible to me. That's what they do to, like, war prisoners. Why are you paying money to do this?
It's like
I saw this in Shawshank.
Yeah, Andy Dufresne put on the record.
Yeah.
What is this? Like Silence of the Lambs.
Your mind, Dufresne.
Down the thing, and they lower the basket, I love it, actually.
I'm about to say, but I feel like if you are having an existential crisis to the point where you need to go do something like this to decide if you are going to accept the $60 million you have already agreed to take on, you might just want to retire. Because this is just getting to be a bit much, for me at least. And like I feel like this is going to keep escalating until he does something like actually dangerous in the pursuit of enlightenment. And I don't know, it's weird.
And if you're the Jets and you're the Raiders, I mean, at this point, the Packers are like, whatever. If you stay, you stay. You know, if you go, you go. I think the Packers front office at this point is just, they're totally cool with whatever he just decides. But if you're the Jets or the Raiders, I mean, Josh McDaniels desperately needs to have a successful season in 2023. If you're the Jets, Joe Douglas, the general manager, Woody Johnson, the owner, there's a lot of pressure there. Robert Saleh, really, I don't think should be on the hot seat going into next season, but it's the NFL. And now you're staring at this guy who could potentially be a trade commodity, who his decision-making process is to sit in the dark and starve. And that's who you want? That's who you want to turn the team over to? I mean, that's the evidence that 2022 Aaron Rodgers was the outlier, and 2021 and 2020 Aaron Rodgers, the back-to-back MVPs, still exists. This is what it takes for him to revert back to that form.
You might just have to just do it anyways. I mean, especially if you're the Jets. Like, you haven't been to the playoffs in, 12 years at this point? 11 years? You try something.
Zach Wilson next 4 days is like hitting on his mom's friends. Like, what's he doing for the next 4 days? I'll take the guy sitting in the dark. I don't think this is going to impact his play. I'm intrigued by whoever came up with this business that sold rich guys like Aaron Rodgers on. Look, let me tell you what. You pay me a lot of money, and I'll lock you in a room and throw some food in every 12 hours. Like, that's a business model that's working?
Give me tens of thousands.
It's about enlightenment. It's the worst bed and breakfast ever.
Yes.
This guy's making a fortune convincing Aaron Rodgers. And there'll be a bunch of people that follow him. You're like, well, maybe A-Rod's got an idea here. I'd still sign him from the Jets. I mean, most guys if they're like, I need 4 days to collect my thoughts, the debauchery that happens, okay, is so
Same.
If a guy wants to sit in a dark room, hey, have at it. I don't think he makes it. How long could you last in that room?
4 hours in the darkness?
No, 4 days.
4 days in the darkness? I mean, you don't think you could do 4 days?
I think I could do a day.
I don't even like sitting through. I'm not sure I'll make it through this whole podcast. 4 days in the darkness? Did you not watch Shawshank? They go 1 week in the hole feels like a year. One of those other guys at Shawshank said that to Andy. He goes, it's the easiest time I ever did. Because he did the little, played the opera. He got 2 weeks in the hole for playing the opera.
Yeah.
And Andy came out fine because he listened to Mozart in the thing, but everyone else goes, it was terrible. I trust the guys from Shawshank.
By the end of this,
yeah,
this talk.
4 days in the dark.
Well, all I know is that the Packers want a decision by I think they would like the decision by the combine. So the end of this month, they want to know what's going on. What are we doing here? Because they're going to go and they're going to talk at the combine to teams that, are going to sit there and say, well, we need to tamper. So you need to tell us, who do we need to tamper with? Are we tampering with quarterbacks right now or not? If we're not, let's start talking about the Rodgers trade. We're in Arizona. Let's talk about Arizona right now, the head coaching search right now. Brian Flores took the Vikings defensive coordinator job, which I think will be great for the Vikings. So that search for Arizona is now down between Mike Kafka, who's the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants, and then obviously Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. Is this even this is a quarterback job? I mean, I don't know how you. I guess because it's the Cardinals, they could screw this up. But I no offense to Lou, but you hire the offensive guy because you got to fix the quarterback, and you go and you get the guy who's touched Mahomes. Like he's been with Patrick Mahomes, he's been with Brian Daboll. If you don't go hire that guy, and then there's no commitment really, I think, to fixing Kyler Murray. I don't know what other path there is to this.
Yeah, someone asked Andy Reid about Mike Kafka today during his media availability at the Chiefs team hotel, and he spoke pretty glowingly of him in terms of his ability to kind of come in immediately and learn and be a teacher and be able to pass on that knowledge to other guys. I kind of think that's the direction you have to go, because it's not like Kyler is this unsalvageable prospect that can't get back to being a productive football player. We've seen him play at a pretty high level, but it is starting to get to be crunch time. Like that money on the contract is about to start kicking in, and if he plays up to his potential, then you don't really care about how much money that you've paid him. But if he plays like he did last year again, then it starts to become a big issue. So that's the most important thing for this Cardinals franchise and where they are right now. So I think you have to go after the guy who has a track record in developing these quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, they tend to go off, like, if an offensive guy doesn't work, then they go defense. It's kind of like it's in the DNA of, Kingsbury was the quarterback whisperer. He was the Mahomes guy. And now he's in Thailand in his own 4 days of darkness. Imagine his darkness.
I'd rather not.
He's calling A-Rod like, dude, I got something better for you than 4 days of darkness.
You watch
4 months in Thailand, right?
You watch the Cardinals this season, December, January? It's darkness.
4 days of darkness.
He had a month and a half of darkness before he decided to finally get out of here, okay?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Look,
I don't know.
Kingsbury, in retrospect, shouldn't have been hired, okay? We could say whatever we want about the limited amount of success that he had there, but people caught on. It changed. He was never able to advance. He looked like the college coach who had losing records, and we're like, oh, geez, it didn't work out, and big surprise here. And he and Kyler's yelling at him. I don't think the either or here applies, because they got to make a decision on Murray. We're in a Super Bowl here. It's the second year in a row where we've run into a team that's going into the Super Bowl. If the Eagles win it, it'll be 2 Super Bowl champs in a row, who looked at a quarterback that they signed to a deal. That was the right deal at the time. And then they said a year later, they're like, you know what? This shit's not working. We're not going to stick on this. And you had owners in Stan Kroenke and Jeffrey Lurie, who I talked to last night, where Lurie was like, look, you got to make the decision. You can't just sit there. Like, the arrow was not up on Carson. We had to make that decision. The money's flushed. Like, it's gone. You can't sit there and stay in it because the money, you're compounding a bad decision by sticking on the money. It's like, you got to let it go. And the Cardinals could be looking at this kind of a decision, probably not after 2023, but after 2024. They're going to look at it. It's going to be a cap hit. It's going to be horrible. But still, I think you look at the last 2 Super Bowls, teams are starting. I think they got to come around to not being paralyzed by a bad quarterback deal, or a quarterback deal that you did. Maybe that was the right deal at the time that went bad later. And I don't think you do that by hiring a defensive head coach. You hire an offensive head coach and see if he can turn around. If he can't, then that's now 2 straight offensive head coaches who have failed with this quarterback. Well, now maybe the quarterback starts to be the problem. I agree with you, by the way, though, that it's not like Kyler's irredeemable as a player. I mean, he's a big skill set there, but start first by staying healthy for an entire season.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to run a certain offense for him. I mean,
well, every quarterback, I think most quarterbacks you have to run a certain offense for. I guess you're right,
but yeah, I don't know. You were going to say something, Charles.
I forgot I was about to say.
Rudely cut you off. No, I'm not a big Kyler Murray. I like watching him play, but I don't know that Kyler Murray's like a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl. it's just, can he stay healthy? There's a million things. It's spectacular fun to watch. But I don't know. They put him in. They gave him that deal, and they're kind of stuck. I mean, so you think next year is the put up or your show or your Carson Wentz?
I think if 2023 does not go well, then 2024 becomes a referendum on it.
Yeah,
I think it's that
2
simple.
years. Yeah.
I think it's just like Russell Wilson. Like, the deal's horrible, but if he has a horrible 2023, then 2024 is the referendum, and then you're deciding, okay, we're going to take the kill shot on the contract, but it's not going to work. And Kyler, in terms of the Super Bowl, you think, and this is no offense to Jalen Hurts, I think he's a spectacularly talented quarterback. He's developed, and I think a lot of that development, particularly this season, had a lot to do with him. His ability to get better, his ability to look at the things he was bad at and say, you know what, I need to improve these things. I don't think he's a more skilled quarterback than Kyler. At the very least, they're comparable, but I mean, Kyler's an extremely skilled quarterback.
Yeah,
undoubtedly.
He's special. I mean, we've seen when he has gotten started and has weapons and a clear vision around him, like put up stretches of play that are as good as any quarterback in the league. But it's just last year was objectively bad for him and Cliff, and it cost Cliff his job. And like you said, if they can't figure out a way to tap back into Kyler Murray like the MVP candidate talent, then that contract's going to sink that team.
How old's Kyler right now?
25, I want to say.
That sounds right.
Because by the time he's 28 or over, like once he loses that step.
I don't even think
they're
about
so
age.
far from being a competitor.
If he can't be healthy, he's not been healthy.
Yeah.
Right.
He has not finished any season of his NFL career healthy. And as a matter of fact, the injuries have progressively gotten worse. They've gotten more dramatic, and when you have a knee that ends a season and is going to cut off part of next season, a shoulder, an elbow in 2020. At some point, you're going to look at this and go, okay, the size was a bigger issue than we thought. Oh, we gambled on his ability to avoid taking the big hits that were going to cost him seasons. That hasn't happened. So I don't even think it's about age. I just think it's about health. At some point, the guy can't stay healthy.
The way he has to play is a reckless way, for lack of a better term. I'm not trying to make it negative, but he plays a wild style, like a reckless style, because he's darting in and out. He can do things that other
hold
people
the ball
can't do.
too. He holds the ball and make a big play.
And that's his thing, and he's getting hit, but someone's going to nail him. So.
All right, Indianapolis. I want to move on to Indianapolis. This coaching search with the Colts is crazy. Like, it's to the point now where people around the league all want to know what on earth is going on in Indianapolis, because the assumption was, up until I think Senior Bowl started, that eventually they're going to interview 50, however, ridiculous number of candidates, and they're going to settle on Jeff Saturday. So they're going to throw everything out there, and then ultimately it's going to come down to Jeff Saturday. Now there's talk, reports that, hey, maybe they're not leaning toward Jeff Saturday anymore. I can tell you this. Nobody in the league is sitting there going, yeah, we know who the next coach is going to be. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, when Lovey got hired last year by Houston, everyone was like, what's going on in Houston? Howie Roseman's like, am I losing my defensive coordinator? Because it doesn't feel like I'm losing my defensive coordinator, which means they're not going with my guy, which means they're probably going with McCown. But this Brian Flores lawsuit comes out, and it's probably not going to go with McCown. So you had the Eagles are sitting there going, they're going to go off board. Like, you better start looking off board. And then they did. They went with Lovie Smith. Right now, teams are looking at Jeff Saturday. They're looking at the Colts, and they're going, we don't even know. It doesn't look like they're going to go Jeff Saturday, but we don't know. If they go off board, it doesn't feel like it's any of our guys. It doesn't feel like they have a candidate right now to be their head coach. This is crazy. This 3 years ago, this was a franchise that we were like, the window's open. Offensive line, they're getting, just figure out the quarterback. Oh, they're going to go get Matt Ryan. I mean, and everything is falling apart in this franchise, and now it feels aimless.
I think, am I remembering this correctly, that the Colts were considered going through a third round of interviews?
Yes.
Yeah, 3 rounds.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy. And the fact that the craziest part to me is they had a head start on all of this, because Frank got fired at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And you're sitting here
forever.
We're 5 days away from the Super Bowl, and there's no clarity on who is going to end up being his head coach. I mean, the Cardinals, they don't have a guy yet, but we were just talking about they've whittled it down to 2 guys at least.
Right.
This feels like, and it just feels aimless. Like they're just kind of wandering around in the desert.
Well, and I think part of what screwed them in this whole scenario is when you talk to people who are involved in coaching searches, who prepare lists, or you talk to some of the firms. Firms always keep track on what the sort of hush-hush coaching searches that are going on off the books. They're doing it behind somebody's back, right? The firms were saying the same thing that all the list makers were saying. You get all the ex-GMs that owners lean on will compile these lists, right? They're all saying the same thing. It doesn't seem like they're searching for anybody. It doesn't seem like they're really doing much due diligence. I think that was because Jeff Saturday was going to be the guy when they brought Jeff in. So they really didn't do – you said, yeah, they should have had a jump start on this. They took the jump start away because they effectively hired a guy in front of all of us and said it wasn't a hire. But then to prove it to us that it wasn't a hire, they would have gone out there and started doing far more advanced work than they really did, and it just wasn't happening. First-round interviews is – you nail down your candidates. The second is the close, right? If you can't get them after the first round, the second interview is the close. If you got to go to a third, it means you got nothing. You really don't have anything.
Date. It's a third date.
It's a third date? Really? Is that what it is? It's a third date with
I don't know what
Jim
they're doing.
Yeah.
Is there anything Jeff Saturday do make you think he should get the job?
No.
Absolutely not. I think, and it's look, I don't want to kill him because he took the opportunity, which, if you're offered that kind of opportunity, you take
I
it.
would too.
You walk off the set, TV and into a coaching job.
I would.
Hell yeah,
I'm
take
loyal
that.
to Yahoo.
Yeah, sorry. I'm doing everything I can to get you a coaching job offer. It's not coming through. I'm really surprised, by the way.
I mean, if you're
going to
be disloyal,
preparation
fine,
is top
but
end. You can tell by this
take
podcast.
a little bit more than the Indianapolis Colts from me.
Tell how high end your preparation is.
A little bit more.
Shocked you're not getting offers.
Better franchise than that.
Regardless. I'm just going to go ahead and skip over you and talk to Charles McDonald the rest of this podcast.
Go ahead.
Sit there in your Masters shirt. Couldn't even bring out an NFL.
I'm wearing a baseball shirt.
Where am I?
Yeah, but come on, man. Masters would be
yeah,
the most
that's
elitist pullover in history.
Maybe I'm a member. Should I wear my green jacket?
Yeah.
Should I wear my green jacket?
All right.
Yeah, it's a secret membership, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a member.
Congratulations.
Guess what? You'll never find out.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Well, look, I think we can all agree that
Pimento cheese sandwiches.
The Colts are. Okay, before we move on real quick, is it possible the Colts are just stringing this out to the point where
Jim
it
Irsay,
is so
anything's
ridiculous that
possible.
if they
Jim
just hire
Irsay owns the
Jeff
team,
Saturday-
right?
We're already at that point. Just
hire Jeff Saturday at this point.
That's what I don't
If you're
get.
gonna
Like,
do-
if you're gonna do it, to me, I wouldn't want to be the last person to hire a head coach if the head coach that I was going to hire was Jeff Saturday. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and then let some other hires come in and people aren't talking about it so much. But the way that this is setting up, this is going to be like the last domino of the offseason before the draft season and the free agency really starts. And if you're not sold on, if all of a sudden you're not sold on the idea of Jeff Saturday, then what the hell have you been doing for the past 4 months?
Well,
They got bigger problems than coach. So
Yeah,
who cares? Who cares who the Colts
Pretty
coach
much
is
the
the next
owner.
2 years? I mean,
Jim Irsay.
Jim, call Charles. He wants the
No.
job. Charles Robbins.
Call this Charles.
Both of them want it. I'm off.
No.
I'm out.
Combine 36 hours with Jim Irsay and Charles McDonald. Let's lock it in, Jim.
I ain't answering no 317s coming in my phone and right to voicemail.
some good defensive coordinator hires. As I said, the Vikings locked down Brian Flores. San Francisco hires Steve Wilks. I guess it's going to be a killer defensive coordinator hire. You obviously had Carolina gets Ejiro, Evero.
Anytime you hire someone who's qualified to be a head coach as your defensive coordinator.
As your defensive coordinator, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's those Brian Flores, I think this is to me, I feel like he's going to get another head coaching shot.
I think so, too.
Regardless of lawsuit, whatever's going on, I think he's going to do really well in Minnesota. I think he will be a big part.
If he gets hired, what would it do for the lawsuit?
I don't know
still
because
sue, right?
it's not. Yeah, that's not really what the basis is. I mean, the basis is how the process has been run, and I mean, it's not just it goes away if Brian Flores gets a job. I know some people are kind of, painting it that way, but I don't think that's factual. And by the way, Brian Flores is the only one in the lawsuit. This covers
Other
more
guys,
than just Brian Flores.
Right.
But I do think that this is the step back to him getting. I mean, he's already in head coaching searches now. I think he's going to do well in Minnesota.
Promising candidate.
As long as the front office, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has obviously got to. They need to restock what they're doing defensively, but it is the missing piece that I felt like they had last year. I never felt like that defense. We talked about it.
Right.
Kind of felt like it was gonna.
They stunk.
Yeah, we were. They're like, oh, they're opportunistic. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like opportunity to go around the playoffs.
Right,
like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing with Brian Flores is, as much as the Miami Dolphins gained on offense with the hire of Mike McDaniel, they lost a whole lot in terms of production defensively by losing Brian Flores.
Yeah.
And they kept Josh Boyer, who was Brian Flores' defensive coordinator at the time, and he couldn't replicate the results. So
And they added talent. I mean, even after adding Bradley Chubb.
Right, it was still bad. So to me, that kind of shows that Brian Flores, as a coach and someone being a part of your organization, at least can provide a lot of value on the defensive side of the football, which the Vikings really, really needed. And they'll have to retool their roster some. You might have some square pegs and round holes right now as it stands right now. I think the idea of someone like Patrick Peterson, as well as he played last year, being in like a man coverage heavy scheme again, might be a little tough for him at this point. So you'll probably have to tweak some things, but. This is about as good as a hire as you could have made at this point in the offseason.
What about Wilks and San Francisco? I feel like
I love that one.
San Francisco just keeps. It's like the third straight defensive coordinator I've been like,
right?
That's the job you want, yeah.
Like
from Saleh to Demeco Ryans to this guy. I mean, Raheem Morris could have become their defensive coordinator. I mean, like it's just at one point. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like I feel like they know. This is, to me, part of the benefit of Kyle Shanahan, too, is he just wants – if you can run it, if he can say, just, look, we're going to give you the talent, you're going to have the guys, and you can run it, I'm going to be over here on offense. I'm going to be doing my play-calling thing. I don't got to worry about you. You just bring the goods to the table. Awesome. And you know what? When it comes time for those coaching, we're going to make sure you get a job. Like, it's the formula now. And, frankly, if I was any defensive coordinator, I actually think part of the reason why the Vic Fangio thing in Miami dragged, and people are like, what's going on? This doesn't make a lot of sense. I think it was because Vic wanted to get to San Francisco. I really, truly believe that. I think Vic looked at that job in San Francisco and said, this is a coach maker. Like, if I want another shot at head coach, which, he's probably not going to get it. But
yeah.
I think he and his agent knew that's the spot where you want to be with that talent. And I think Wilks is going to –
I think he's going to crush it, yeah.
I'd be stunned if he didn't kill it there.
Well, when you look at the defenses, like when Wilks has had control of it, it's
full control, right?
Full control of it. He's not inheriting what Phil Snow does on defense,
right, exactly.
and trying to keep
post Matt Rule and Phil Snow going out of the building.
Right,
when it was turned over to Steve. It changed.
Right, that the style that they ran in San Francisco. That's the shell of it. That's what Steve likes to do as well. So I think from a continuity standpoint and like what the players are going to be asked to do, it's not a whole lot different than like what Demeco was doing. And not only that, but you get someone who's actually good at calling these plays, good at relating to guys, good at getting guys to try their hardest, which to me was always one of the most impressive parts about like the Demeco defense is just how hard and how fast they played, which was it kind of felt more like a college football team almost at sometimes in how aggressive they were compared to like a professional team. But if you can keep that same energy, which I think Wilks can, it's a perfect fit for what the 49ers are trying to do, and eventually what Steve Wilks is trying to do again by getting his name back into the head coaching ring, which he was qualified to get a head coaching job this time around. So, it's almost to me like San Francisco to a degree is kind of becoming like the NFL version of Alabama.
Yeah.
Where these guys go there and say, all right, well, you coach here for a couple years, you build up that image, and then you go get somewhere else. So I think this is a good job for Steve Wilks and the 49ers and everyone involved.
You got a defensive line like that, like he can be so aggressive with
yes.
everything else. I mean, it's such a dream come true.
And they could add.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could still potentially. I think that's the thing too.
Guys want to play there.
Yeah, who wouldn't
want
to
be part of that?
I start to think of some of these veterans. It's funny because like you look at Tampa, there are going to be a couple of defensive veterans who aren't going to be re-signed because of where they are age-wise. I get that, but I start to think like if you're aging out in the NFL, if you're 30, 31, and you're like, hey, I probably got a good run left, or 32. I mean, I got a year or two left. I'm staring at that spot and I'm saying like, how can I get there? I want to get a ring. That's where I want to be. Mm-hmm. To me, it's just a simple no-brainer for I think a lot of veteran players to. And now Steve Wilks is there. The biggest problems with San Francisco to me is the quarterbacks. those are Kyle problems.
Yeah.
Obviously.
They don't have
Yeah.
defensive problems right now. They got good luck, Kyle. Figure that out. Hope his elbow's fine when the season starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about what do you think about Carolina's hire?
Oh, it's a good fit for them too because, I think that's another good fit for the players in the sense that, like what Ejiro likes to run and what Phil Snow ran to Carolina, it's pretty similar at least like from a front's perspective. So, I think Phil might have been a little bit more of an aggressive blitzer, but you're at least going to be asked to do some of the similar things. And look, with Ejiro, he withstood that. Whatever the Broncos were doing on offense, he gave them a chance to win.
He did, yeah.
Most games. So, and it's not like the Panthers are starting off from this spot where they don't have any defensive talent. Like they've got some dudes out there with Derek Brown, Brian Burns. They got cornerbacks at J.C. Horn. Jeremy Chinn's going to be another guy that can kind of fit in there as a Swiss Army knife. So, I really like that hire. And again, it kind of goes back to what we said before. Anytime you can get someone who's qualified to be a head coach to be your defensive coordinator, you're doing a pretty good job. Like that's a damn good staff that Carolina's put together, and it's like the feel's a lot different than this time a year ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Be interested to see what kind of jump they make with. It's not a fair comparison because Matt Rule was not like a disaster like Urban Meyer, but
it's like
when you bring in a professional coach, the whole gets back to the NFL style. Do you make a leap? It's not going to be that big of a leap because the bottom wasn't the bottom, and you made it. But it's a whole new thing, and maybe that's it. Because I think Matt was okay at best. But he's a college coach, and it's hard enough first job if you've been in the NFL the whole time. It's really hard to jump from a college program to that first job. These guys who was the most successful? Like Chip Kelly was successful for a little while. That wasn't like a regression, but not very few.
Pete Carroll. I mean, if you take USC, I mean,
Pete,
even though
but
he
he
was in the
coached
NFL
NFL
before,
first.
right?
I don't know. It's just such a. I don't know. You talk about all these guys. Everyone's a retread. The second hire is when you get them a little bit better. Not all of them, obviously. Sirianni's here and stuff like that, but you get better. And so I wonder if, all of a sudden, we're back to a professional organization.
Mm-hmm.
I think too, you got to have a staff that fits that ownership there. I mean, look, David Tepper's not going to be a hands-off guy. Everybody knows it now. It's only taken a couple years to figure out he's going to be heavily involved in everything they do. And Frank Reich, you're like, all right, well, can't get worse than Ursay. It can't get worse than the crazy shit that was going on in Indianapolis the last couple of years he was there. Decisions that just started to come down from ownership where Reich's sitting there going, is this going to make us better? I don't think it's going to make us better, and it's sure as hell not coming from Chris Ballard. So this is what we're going to have to deal with now. And, so I don't want to put Tepper in that box, but he's going to be hands-on, and the coach has to be okay with that. I think Frank can navigate that. Ejiro comes from a situation where there was ownership upheaval in Denver. It was weird, look, frankly, if you were on that staff in the 2022 season, you saw some things in Denver, okay? There was not a person who was part of that who did not come out of that with some
PTSD.
Some scar tissue. There definitely is a memorable experience for everybody involved. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up.
Little cards.
Yeah, I know.
It's pretty good. Huh?
Yeah, I know. It's pretty great.
What happened there?
Well, I mean, we were going to talk about
Scribbled it out.
Derek Carr, and then we were just like, yeah, wait a minute. That's not me, by the way. That's the producers. So. You're not even supposed to be looking at the cards. You're the one who needs the cards, by the way. This is like a two-man show here. This is like a Three Stooges.
Let's talk about 4 Days in Darkness.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that shit.
When's the interesting part of the show
Three
happen?
Stooges, everybody knew.
What a day, man. What a week.
What do we got going on?
All right,
we got a game Sunday.
Yeah. Let's talk about. Look, we're boots on the ground here. We'll get into the depth of the game, but I mean, it's been interesting since we.
Let's talk about the real teams.
It's been beautiful. The Eagles and Chiefs. It was interesting that Monday night. You and I were talking about it when we first got there. They hadn't done that Monday night experience, the introductory night experience since COVID. So Miami was the last time we saw it, which was February 2020. It felt like, and I think you and I talked about. We were like. Yeah, this feels like
finally back.
Yeah, this feels like when we left Miami, we were like, this is what the NFL looks like. This is what the experience looks like. This is what the Super Bowl looks like. Pandemic hit. shit went sideways, it felt weird after that. And then last night was the first time I was like, okay, they sold 10,000 plus seats in there. The fans were close. It felt cramped as hell.
Yeah.
You had the ridiculous moron tchotchke media running around doing this guy in a barrel.
Yeah.
It was, like,
It was
you
a
know,
hot
it was just
dog.
like
Someone was a hot dog.
I saw
yeah.
that hot dog.
Pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah. What was somebody asked Hertz for the marriage? It was the marriage proposal, and it was like I saw your cue. He said we're texting. You're like, hey, he's about to sign that big deal. Make sure you get the prenup.
No, don't sign the prenup.
No, Hertz better sign the prenup.
Hertz, yeah, try to get Hertz. If you're going to do the marriage proposal, no prenup because Hertz is going to get banked. It's coming. Yeah, it was a good time. I liked having all the crazies back and dumb question. I feel bad for. I don't know why the NFL does it.
Horrible questions.
I don't mean to be like a stick in the mud. It's not my problem, but like there's enough media there that are literally trying to trick the players and the coaches into saying something dumb that they can make viral. They're making fun of them. I never understand why. Now I don't know how you. Well, like you can't go around policing what a question is because somebody might think something else is a dumb question. But like when you're talking to a hot dog. like I don't know. Maybe that guy's not really here for like his intent, but they're trying to trick him so they get a viral. And so I feel bad because these players are just like, first off, they're nervous.
Yeah.
The whole scene is crazy.
Yeah.
And I've been to 15, 20 of them. It's a circus. They've watched it their whole life. They come out filming it. They're nervous about the game. A lot of them are very focused on trying to prepare for the biggest game of their life. All this stuff, and then you got a guy with a puppet trying to trick you into saying something stupid or answer the and it's like you're just a prop. I'm like, I don't know why the NFL lets them do that, but they do, and I just kind of sit back and laugh at it
because it's the tent pole inside the tent pole.
Like, I don't know.
It's the Super Bowl that has become, and I truly believe it had to be moved to Monday night. Didn't used to happen on Monday.
I like it
Tuesday
night. Tuesday night.
I truly believe the reason why they moved it to Monday night is because it's so ludicrous. And I think the coaches were so sick of this shit. And they're just like, you know what? Like you said, you watch the players walk out, particularly for the guys who've never been in it before, and they're all and you can tell they're like, man, this is kind of wild. The setup's wild. Mm-hmm. Look at all these people here. And then when they sit down, they're, especially podiums, they're all in front of bigger audiences than they've ever been in front of before. Unless it's like Mahomes or, it's like the rare elite level guy who's like anywhere he goes, he's looking at a situation like that. But there are a lot of like, Snead who's sitting there with like, 6, 7 deep, asking him questions. And I think you got to do it on Monday because it's just so ludicrous. I mean, the Nick Sirianni thing where, the question about, what Eagles player wouldn't you let your daughter date? And he's like, my daughter's 5, and you're just like, come on, man. Like,
why do you say that?
Like at least no. Like, plus, you're going to get that response. If you knew his daughter was 5, you don't ask that question. So, just some of this shit
But it was just they're trying to create something viral. They got, look, there's one guy will get picked on. First off, how the hell are you telling your daughter let me tell you, if you tell your daughter not to date someone, they're going to date them. Okay, so that's not even a good strategy of like I am now preventing you from that doesn't work. Like how patriarchal can we be on that? But yeah, it's like Sirianni's like 40, but like you got guys, I mean, some of these players 23, 24 years old, and it's like you've got all of a sudden someone's asking you a very thoughtful question of like, how is we have 2 African-American quarterbacks. How has that brought along progress? What does it mean in your community? Something like that, right? And then the next one's like someone asking like, who shouldn't you date? And then it's like, and then there's the guy in a hot dog. Then there's someone asking about their faith or something, which is going to be hard to answer. Even if it's well-intentioned, it's like, man, it's a public setting. I don't know if I want to talk about. And then it's back to like, well, if they come out in zone, cover 2, what are you going to do? And the questions are just wild, and everyone's just shouting questions. It's like, I don't know. These guys do really well handling it all. I love media night because it's just a total train wreck. Doesn't bother me, but again, it's sort of weird.
Yeah. This was my first time.
It was? I didn't know that.
It was.
I didn't realize it was your first time.
It was interesting. I mean, I was one of the people walking around asking dumb questions, but not as dumb as is this a must-win game?
This is a must-win game. Someone was like, like it was all jokes. Like, don't is the reason you don't watch Yellowstone because if you want to watch Cowboys get knocked off, you just watch the playoffs and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. There's just like really stupid joke. The funniest one I ever saw, there was a guy with a puppet, and they made the puppet wear a Troy Polamalu wig, and then he was asking Bill Belichick questions, and Belichick just deadpans and looks at the puppet with a Troy Polamalu wig and just answers the question just like it's like it's like Joe Buck asking him a question. Like, he doesn't even react to this absurdity. It was like not just a puppet; it's the Troy Polamalu puppet. Like what?
Don't you think there's a percentage chance that every time Belichick's up at any podium and he looks out at us, all he sees is a bunch of puppets?
We're all idiots.
Yeah, he's like,
we are subhuman.
Yeah, we're all morons.
He refused to acknowledge that there was a puppet. I'm like, what is going on? This is like the biggest, like the most revered guy in like the history of football, and he's getting interviewed by a puppet.
Yep.
With a Troy Polamalu wig.
Like Tom Curran.
Now
the
puppet guy doesn't come back
with Bill
anymore.
forever, and like think. Make sure you ask just the right question so you don't get embarrassed.
You get some good answers out of those guys sometimes. That's the funny part. Like they never know what they'll answer.
Anything you guys? Obviously, you've been in the Chiefs. Oh, I mean, look, we got to talk about Charles McDonald and the mac and cheese.
What'd you do?
The mac and cheese.
Oh, you said that to me like I did something fucked up.
Yeah, I know. I was like, what did you do?
I mean, but you did kind of.
We got to talk about that.
You did kind of because we're all talking about the questions that get asked, and C-Mac, who had his claim to fame with Andy Reid, was getting Andy Reid's mac and cheese recipe, and then he brought it up again when Andy's at the podium. But I thought it made Andy look stupid because Andy didn't have. I'm like, don't tell me you got to go to your phone, your recipes. Like, tell me you got to know this off the top of your head.
It's all about the full circle moment, you know.
What does he make? How's his recipe?
I just like that he commented on your physique. He was like, you haven't been eating that mac and cheese.
He said I look good.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey,
Andy Reid.
I can't hate. Yeah.
Andy Reid thinks you're sexy, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
He's not the only one.
Take it.
You're like, can I get a
wherever
tryout?
it's coming from. I think Andy Reid probably has a good mac and cheese recipe. But
no, he does. It's on a Yahoo Sports Twitter page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't remember it?
No, you're not company man. You're not checking out what we're doing.
I've been working.
Same. No, I don't.
It's not really much, right? I mean, it's noodles and you melt some cheese, right? A little milk.
Oof.
Oh man, bro!
I'm not eating anything that you're making. Yeah.
What is Andy Reid's? Andy Reid's is like some like.
Well, he's got it's a 7 cheese mac and cheese recipe.
7 cheeses
with 6 in it, and 5 should be good.
But 7 is like blackout.
Yeah,
like
7 cheeses.
Delirious from the taste.
Can you name 7 cheeses?
You need to hibernate.
Name 7
Oh,
cheeses.
I
name
can't.
7?
I can't.
Go ahead.
I mean,
this is bad.
Can we
American.
Can we collaborate on this?
Cheddar,
Gouda, American, Swiss,
provolone,
mozzarella,
Havarti.
Okay.
Havarti. You don't know what Havarti cheese is?
I don't either. But
Listen, man, you live in a.
Got
you
one
live,
more.
Listen, you live a 3 garage
got one
lifestyle,
more.
so I don't want to hear that bullshit. You don't know what Havarti is. You got
Pimento
you got
cheese
3
from the
garage.
Masters.
This is
Pimento cheese.
Yeah, Mr. Masters here.
Yeah.
What's
Listen,
Havarti?
I can't even be sitting on this stage with how much money is next to me.
There's a lot of cheese.
Not next to you. Well, next to you, yeah. Not all the way over here, though.
I'm sorry. I'm slumming.
Let's not start the lies over here, okay?
All right. Let's we'll take a break here. We'll throw it to our advertisers. We'll come back on the other side. All right, we're back. Look, we were going to talk about Derek Carr here, but we cut this because I got to talk about Sean Payton. I know we talked about Sean Payton getting hired by the Broncos, but I think it's worth bringing back up because he did his first press conference, and I really was wondering what Sean are they going to get? I was like, are they going to get the cocky kind of like doing shit my way because I know what I'm doing, the guy who basically went through interviews, or is it going to be maybe a second time around Sean Payton's be a little softer? No. He comes out and says there's not going to be any personal performance teams. They're going to be my guys in the building, my staff. That's it, which is aimed at Russell Wilson. So your personal performance team, they are not welcome. And then at one point, someone's asking about game management, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically says, I don't anticipate our crowd will have to count down the game clock.
Is that even a paraphrase?
Damn, that's pretty close, right? That was pretty much the exact quote. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yeah, so straight up just
He was mean.
I mean, Nathaniel Hackett was Joe Pesci walking into that room, empty room, and Sean Payton was standing behind him and took him out.
This is Sean Payton, though. Like, this is what he does, man.
No, I know. I just didn't know if it was going to happen right off Jump Street. I was like, is he going to do it right in the first press conference?
Look,
I watched the off-podium stuff. The on-podium stuff was good, but off-podium was when you were like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is going to be hell on wheels.
Look, I know I bring it up on this show all the time, but for people who don't know, I am a Falcons fan. So I know Sean Payton through my fandom because he
hurt you so many times.
He hurt me so many times for like 20 years, pretty much. That this is just like who he is. Like I thought it was funny, like maybe people who aren't as familiar with the Sean Payton experience, but he's very honest. He's hard nosed. He's going to do things his way. So like even the idea that Russell could have his little thing going on with that was never ever going to fly. And honestly, it's probably the best for Russell too. Like maybe just to pull back from how you were operating over the past couple of years and kind of embrace maybe someone who knows more than the people that you've been working with. Which Sean Payton, he's one of the best offensive coaches in this era of football. So I would be willing to take on his tutelage over what I'm trying to do on the side because, frankly, that hasn't been working. And I kind of think like when you watch let's call it the final month of Broncos football, I don't think Russell Wilson is like physically done just yet. Like he had some moments, like especially against the Chiefs towards the end of the season. There might be part of this that's salvageable if Sean Payton is still as good as we think he is. But in order for this to work, Russ is going to have to buy into the Sean Payton experience. And I'm interested to see how much that bothers him or it doesn't bother him at the end of the day.
Yeah, the personal coaches, that's what Sean Payton is excellent offensive coach, but is he going to work with like all the little stuff that I assume the personal coach is doing, the fundamentals, the training and all that?
Well, should they even be in the facility? That's the
facility.
Okay, it was like Guerrero.
Leave,
it was like Guerrero with the Patriots.
Go somewhere else.
When Bill tells Tom Brady, Guerrero's not rolling up in our spot anymore.
Yeah.
Really, Russell Wilson thinks he's still going to get. I mean, like, it's. Yeah.
You ain't Tom Brady, Russell.
No. No, you're a long way from being able to have your old personal team.
I kind of take – I mean, look, Russ was not good last year, but the whole thing was a disaster.
Right.
So I'm not – I don't expect Russell Wilson to be Russell Wilson again, and I feel like it's probably going the wrong way and all that, but I'm willing to suspend that decision until we see what it's like with a real situation.
Listen, I can tell you now, getting the backstory on what was going on there.
If
you're
a veteran and you've only known the extremely competent Seahawk organization, and you get fairly competent
compared to the other teams.
Yeah,
I mean, Pete Carroll and all that, and you're a veteran and you get put into some Mickey Mouse situation, you're just going to shut it down too. You just be like, oh my God, what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean,
Payton will command the respect on day one because immediately no one's buying into to Hackett. No one's buying in.
I think what happened with Hackett was he was not ready to be a game manager. He didn't understand he did, and I think they tried to make him understand before the season started. If you're not going to have a game manager, like someone on staff who helps you, go through the game management process, you need to study all these scenarios because you've never done it before, and he just didn't. And then when the season started, he went off a cliff. And that first, I was told like straight up, they're like, look, somebody, I don't want to say who in the organization, but it was like, look,
go ahead, say it.
First game,
we're all friends here.
They're like first game in Seattle, right? He goes to kick a field goal, and it's like instantly all the analytics people are like, hey, that's like 10 yards longer than the longest field goal kicked in this entire stadium. This is insane. And all the players are going to know it. Every player is going to know. So what happens, you come off the field after losing that game, and all the players are like,
why did we kick the field goal?
Why the hell did we put in Russell Wilson's hand? Like, number one, that's our guy. Number two, he's in Seattle, and this is the moment. Give him the moment to be that guy. Like, let him be the assassin. Yeah, and Russell Wilson. And
that thing fell apart so fast.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I was told straight up, after the first game, guys were like, wait a minute. Like, wait a minute. How like, it wasn't a 50-yard field goal. Okay, it
Oh,
wasn't.
right,
It was a
right.
64. It wasn't a 48-yard field goal. Like players knew instantly the second it was made, they were like, "We just gave up." Like it felt like a
my
give up.
guess
Yeah.
is he lost the team back in training camp.
No, he didn't.
Good coaches win it over. You know, when you have a job, you know if you get a new boss, you know almost instantaneously whether they know what the hell they're doing.
No, because it wasn't until they got into those situations where they were in the games and things had to be processed quickly. Plays had to be complementary,
Right.
all these different, and they were just like, none of this makes sense all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then I think when the fans turned so quickly, I think Hackett was shell shocked. I think he was like he felt hated in the town. His kids were
That's
going to
fucked up.
school, and the Broncos fans that were steering. I mean, what do you think's happened to his kids? And that's
Yeah.
not you. Like it does happen in
Right,
NFL.
I know
We
it
hear,
does.
yeah. So
Yeah.
his kids are putting up with it. They're all hearing it, and I think he was just like, "Oh my God, I didn't expect this." But look, straight up, it was what we all thought it was. He was hired to be Aaron Rodgers' coach. He was 100%. I'm telling you right now. Like, great, he had a great presentation, all that stuff. You can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, he was the guy who was going to be Aaron's coach. And then Aaron didn't press for the trade to Denver, and it dramatically altered things. And you went and got Russ, who I think we can all agree needs a particular kind of coach. Okay, I think he does. I think he needs a Pete Carroll type. I think he needs somebody who's, kind of got the balls to just be like, hey man, you know what? Like that's how Pete was too. Sean's probably a top 5 play caller in the last 20 years of football.
Yeah.
So I think things could turn around pretty quickly.
Yeah,
in
and
Denver.
I just go back to like the first game where the Broncos went to Seattle. Like the decision was so jarring that I would have been like, I remember at the time I was like, if you fire Nate Hackett after week 1, like I get it. Like that was so incomprehensibly dumb that it's hard to have faith in anything moving forward past this, and it never really got much better. And also just like if you go back to that play, it was 4th and 8. Like you're paying Russell.
Sorry, 4th and 8, not 4th and 6.
Yeah, you're paying Russell Wilson $250 million. Like
Right.
if I don't think my $250 million quarterback can get 8 yards in a pivotal moment where he's going back home to play against a team that has kind of outcast him here, what are we doing?
Right.
Like what are we even doing here? I mean, and I know 4th and 8's not a gimme, but it's better than a 64-yard field goal.
And the players are also saying, why would you not give that's the guy, right?
Right.
Give the guy. Put it in his hands. And the players too who wanted to, what I was told was like the players were amped. They wanted to win that game for him because of what was
Why
going on.
not?
with Seattle.
Yeah,
They were
it's
talking
fun.
trash about Russ, and like it's awesome to go back and show everybody like, hey, I'm out now, I'm doing my thing, and then to have that taken off the table, I think dramatically affected how some guys looked at it. And that was, like you said, it was game 1. So, do you want to talk real quick? I was at the Senior Bowl, obviously in Mobile, Alabama, and Dan, you're on the College Football Inquirer. Obviously, C-Mac, you do a lot of draft stuff. I am not hearing good things about. So just the draft.
Yeah.
I heard like straight up, dude was like, this draft is like it's going to be a very middling, mediocre draft, and like what you said to me, the tight ends. I was talking to an evaluator. He said the tight ends are the strength of the class.
Yeah.
That's never really a great thing. He's like, unless it's Gronk, Kelsey, Antonio Gates. He's like, and it ain't. He's
Right.
like, that's the strength of the class. And he's just like, it's gonna be a bad.
Michael Myers, no joke.
He's a stud.
No. Look, there's gonna be
But that's it.
there's gonna
Yeah,
be some
yeah.
guys, no
Yeah.
doubt. But like, if you have multiple first-round picks in this draft, and you don't see the quarterback you can package and whatever, offload, trade down.
I don't
picks
love the
next year.
quarterbacks. I don't love the quarterbacks. Bryce Young he's just an incredible football player and a great guy. He's smaller though.
I'm rooting for him.
It's impossible not to root for Bryce Young. Great dude, winner, just good at football.
Right.
Right?
Thin.
Like that
He's just a
kind of
thin,
like
thin frame guy.
just
Yeah.
good at football. He's thin. He's a little
Yeah.
small. We're going to see what that height really is. C.J. Stroud to me is inaccurate on passes you can't be inaccurate on. He just throws a little behind. He's a little like in the NFL. You cannot miss on a screen pass. Like just enough. Maybe he proves me wrong. Everyone's excited about a couple games he had.
The Georgia game.
The Georgia game, but he had incredible wide receivers. I like C.J. Stroud.
It's like every year the Ohio State quarterbacks. It's like
I'm just not sitting there going, man, C.J. Stroud, he's just a little inaccurate. And then you're getting to like this Will Levis and like
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson's like really interesting talent and got some, but
he's who I would draft if I had job security.
And like this, but not in the top 15, although I don't know. I mean, it just seems like we're trying to find this quarterback. Bryce Young, I get. He's a winner. He's a straight. But, it's going to be some defensive guys.
It's tough for Bryce.
Will Anderson and things like that. I mean, Bijan Robinson I know he's a running back, and no one wants to take a running back out. He's a hell of a football player.
Yeah. I think when you look at like pure talent, Bijan might be as good as like Will Anderson and Jalen Carter, just at the top of the draft.
Bijan has a chance to be that kind of that like next level running back. That I know. Hey, you can always get a running back. I don't know you can get him.
Right.
But again, this is where we're talking. It's not stacked. It's not a great one to have a million picks.
Richardson, really interesting. When I was at the Senior Bowl, I was having dinner with a guy, and he said, look, the skill set, he said, he would argue even like the top line talent, the ceiling is not the same as Lamar Jackson. He said, but watch. He was like, if he ends up being a guy who teams look at it, they love this, everything that's there, but they're just scared. Like you said, it could be a job security type thing because maybe it's a guy you don't think, he's going to have to come in, sit for a little bit. I had someone else who kind of said, hey, maybe it's like Jordan Love. What if Jordan Love comes out and he plays really well? What if Jordan Love needed? He had immense skills. Mm-hmm. He really needed to sit for a while and work out the kinks and not have people staring at him and wonder, like, produce now. So he kind of, so I've had sort of the different comparisons that all kind of push him down to the bottom of the first round. But he was like, look,
if you squint.
He said it's going to be like a Baltimore. It's going to be like a team if he starts to slide where it'll be like a John Harbaugh. It'll be a long-time personnel department who will sit there and go, you know what? Fuck it. Let's take the kid.
Right.
And let's sit him, and we'll figure it out. And maybe he comes in like Lamar, and you're instantly like, oh, my God, no, this is the dude. Like, we can make this work right now. It'll be interesting. That LSU game was sick.
It's like when you get down to it, it's with Anthony Richardson, it's kind of like Planet Theory stuff. There aren't that many guys that are 6'4", 240 can run like that and have a pitcher's arm attached to their body. Like that's why I tend to think he might go a little bit higher once these guys sit down and they start really going through things. Like, well,
Pro Day is going to be like,
what if?
Yeah. It's Pro Day is probably going to be sick.
Yeah.
It's like I can't remember what show it is right now, but it's that meme on Twitter. It's like it doesn't always work for everybody else, but hey, it could work for us this time.
There's Arrested Development.
Yeah, Arrested Development. Yeah. But he's built in a lab, and if you have a chance, maybe I'm too potential athleticism focused, but if I'm sitting there at 9 and I just hired Frank Reich and I can get a veteran quarterback to come hold the fort, I might roll the dice there and say, hey, if this doesn't work, we'll give you another shot at maybe a more cleaner prospect, but let's try this thing out for a year or two.
Yeah. That could get him in the top 10, I guess. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think he's a great pick later, and I wouldn't necessarily do this, but the Lions have 2 picks, right? You get that second pick, and or something like that.
Right? Yeah, you already got Jared Goff.
Yeah,
right. You got Goff, and you're saying I don't know, and
or Seattle too.
Seattle's
one too.
One of those, but can he get higher? He had some games for Florida. He was tremendous, but then there's games that didn't quite work.
Right.
But it's not. I always think that the QB class defines the draft because that's what everyone gets excited about, and it's not. It's just not that.
Well, and it doesn't help that everybody's looking at 2024 and they're going Caleb Williams,
Drake May.
Right.
Yeah, they're already all looking 1 year down, and so this is definitely one of those years where I can see. It was like Howie last year when Howie's like, well, maybe I'll need a quarterback next year. We're going to find out 2022 whether I need a quarterback. So let me offload a first-round pick for a pick next year, and then that way I can still get a quarterback. I talked to him about that in shout out to Howie Roseman too, man, because I went back to when I had to sit down with him in it was like July or August, and I went in and I was like, so when this doesn't work, I was like, you're positioned great in 2023 for a veteran starter to want to come here because the roster's loaded. You're going to have a couple first-round picks. I'm like, you handled this masterfully. And Howie was like, well, it's going to work, though. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And Nick Sirianni was like, no, it's going to work. And he started rattling off all these things that Jalen Hurts was doing. And I'm like,
we are now.
Yeah, and here we are now. I'm telling you, last offseason was my worst listening offseason ever. Because, like, people coming out of Seattle were like, no, Geno's going to be good. And I'm like, you're crazy. That is not happening. Geno is going to be terrible. He probably won't even be the starter. He's going to be Drew Lock. I'm not even listening. I'm like, whatever.
Remember that? Remember the Drew Lock?
Oh, dude, it was unbelievable. It was amazing.
I forgot about that debate.
I'm blowing it off, and then no, Jalen's going to be great. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe, probably not, though. And then Sean McVay, the TV stuff, I go back and listen to that tape. It was like 20 minutes of Sean McVay sounding like the most miserable human on earth who won the Super Bowl. He was like, when we were losing, I was a different guy. And like, I was just like, my wife and my dad. And I'm just like, why did I not pay attention to any of this and start thinking middle of the season, this dude might not want to be here when this is all over?
Yeah.
This is, yeah.
All right, I have a question for both of you, too. Going back to Bryce Young real quick. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a lot kind of weighing on his success here, because if he flames out in the NFL, is the NFL just going to be done with short quarterbacks for a while?
Yeah.
Because this Kyler thing ain't working out.
Yep.
Obviously, Russ is different because he's had a longer career. But if he flames out, are they going to be done with this?
I think that you probably have to start processing, because what it was what started all this was Drew and Russ. Those were the two guys where franchises started looking at them and go, hey, they were on the shorter side, and they worked. So then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, we'll take Kyler.
Drew Brees was
Kyler
the one because he had the smaller hand.
Right.
And all that.
Here's the thing, though. They did it different. I mean, Drew. The thing about Drew was Drew was never running around. He was always going to be a shotgun. He's going to throw it a million times. He's going to, it wasn't. So it limited, I think, the injury exposure. Russ, for the most part, it was limited injury exposure. Plus, I think he's always been built to. I mean, he's a sturdy dude.
Sturdy guy,
he's a sturdy dude. And then you get to Kyler, and it's like, all right, well, he's a little shorter, and he's a little smaller.
But he's
so good. His ball that he throws is amazing.
Runs a 4.3
His
probably.
gear is sick.
Stuff.
Yeah, he can change.
He can run a 20-second play.
He can take a right turn that'll make people look stupid trying to tackle him, all these different things. But what you would hear, and it was with Tua, too, I would hear, like, it was like, what kind of hit can he take? If he takes the hit, is he going to start to break down? Obviously, like, Tua is not in this category, but it was like, you just started to hear, like, the physical demands of it, and teams were talking themselves into these guys being able to live up to it. And obviously Kyler hasn't. And I think Bryce is another situation.
My thing about Bryce is he's almost your ideal quarterback except for the size. And so, like, Kyler's like a little bit of a unicorn kind of guy. You just can't. He's just the best athlete on the field. You give him the ball, right?
There's really no box for
Bryce Young is a pure quarterback. He can do everything you want as a quarterback. He has got an arm. He's accurate. He's quick. He reads defenses. Right. He steps up.
Dealt with Saban for a couple of years.
He's a leader. The team loves him. He is your that's why he's going to go number one. But we don't know. I will say, don't worry, Stetson Bennett will save short court. He's going to come out of the drunk tank in Dallas and go right to star.
He's a wild boy.
Yeah.
He really is, man.
Yeah.
You'd hear those stories, and then you'd be like,
I don't even know
how wild.
I don't even know if he wants to be in the NFL.
It doesn't seem like
he's not going to get drafted. You know that, right?
Okay, but I feel like he could have if he went to the Senior Bowl. Maybe.
He'd gone to Senior Bowl.
Maybe. But he decided to bang on house doors.
I don't think he's going to get drafted.
I don't think so anymore.
I think when you talk to teams, I mean, they don't.
Drunk tank doesn't help.
It doesn't.
Because you're like, okay, this guy, he's mature. He's 25, and it's like, now he's not mature.
That was my thing. 25 banging on doors drunk? Like, that's a young man's game. What are you doing, Stetson?
How about staying out till 6 in the morning? Usually you're that drunk, you pass out before 6.
Yeah.
This is Dallas, not Vegas.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I kind of the stamina. I'm kind of respecting that.
This is the NFL, too. This will tell you the NFL. This is where how they prioritize arrests. This dude was saying to me, he goes, DUI, it's not good. He was like, but there are scenarios where it can happen, where it can be kind of explained away. He was like, but
public intoxication is hard.
Yeah.
He's like, that's really. He was like,
Because you really got
you got to be trying. Like, you really have to do something.
I mean,
We bang on some lady's door at 6 in the morning.
we've
Just
all
call
been
the
drunk
cops.
in public. Like, I've never got arrested for being
Speak for
drunk in
yourself.
public.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, okay. Let's rewind the clock about
Swearing
15
them.
hours.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, right. Exactly.
No
It
comment.
wasn't even 15 hours. Was
It wasn't 6 in the morning.
Oh man. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it shapes up as we come down the stretch. I feel like everybody always finds somebody to fall in love with before the draft, and then everybody, we start hearing, oh no, the quarterbacks are going to push up to the top of the first round, and Will Levis is amazing, and
Next thing you know, someone's drafting Zach Wilson, too.
Yep. After he played Mickey Mouse Circuit.
Mickey Mouse Circuit and went after mom's best friend.
Yep.
It's the only NFL caliber thing he ever did.
Jeez.
All right.
He had one throw in pro day, and he hooked up with his mom's friend.
I think that's a great place to end this.
Yeah, it's definitely a great place to end this. Any final thought from here before we're gonna have another show this week?
I
Obviously,
didn't even
but
have an initial thought.
yeah,
I have
know,
no
you did.
thought. Yeah, you really brought the
I
thunder
brought
today.
nothing. Brought nothing to the show.
Yeah.
It's an absolute.
Did you like hanging
time
out with
suck.
us at least?
Yeah, it was all right. Made it.
I'm like ripping.
I will now do 4 days of darkness.
I'm
as
ripping
penance
on the
to
guy
my-
who was naked wearing a barrel, and then this is what we got on the
Yeah.
show.
Horrible.
Like,
It was a
could've just-
horrible effort by
Oh,
me.
when I get back home, I will
The
be doing the
Daniel-
Aaron Rodgers retreat for sure.
This is
you
the,
could be doing here.
that's the Daniel Hackett of you play to win the game.
Yeah.
Attempting field goals from 70 yards out.
Good job.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Boom-ts.
All right. Well, look, you can get Charles McDonald on Twitter at 4verts. You can get Dan Wetzel at Dan Wetzel. You can get myself at Charles Robinson. Shout out to our crew on the ground in Phoenix, working remotely and at home. We always appreciate it. We got a little spot here. It's nice. Still got the spots right by the door. See a lot of people walking in, coming in, very curious. We'll be back later in this week, Thursday, so be sure to tune in to that. And as always, help us keep Therese Paylor's legacy alive. Check out breakingtea.com. That's capital T/Therese for the All Juice tee or hoodie. Remember that proceeds from that purchase go to support the Therese Paylor Scholarship in his name I just blanked out.
Howard.
At Howard University. I've done this close
I know, a million times.
a million times, and I'm sitting at the Super Bowl
See
struggling.
Rob trying to steer funds to Michigan
Jeez.
State or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Just
right.
give it to Michigan State.
Also, there's another scholarship in Trez's name you can donate to at Power Mizzou. Check out our podcast description. We'll tell you how to get your money where it needs to go. We appreciate it. Always thinking of Therese. This would have been a great event for him. Kansas City. Had a chance to talk to a couple Chiefs guys who, were thinking of Therese as well at this event. So definitely missing him right now. So if you could, leave a 5-star review. Tell a friend. We'd appreciate it. And we will see you Thursday on the pod without Dan Wetzel.
Yep.
Yeah, get the hell out of here.
Let Jory come in here and class this joint up a little
seriously.
bit.
No, what we need is the Charles McDonald hour where I just grab people off the. As they
do
walk
that.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, there were plenty of people that walked
Listen,
by.
you
too.
ain't going to pay me. I ain't coming back. I didn't get nothing for today.
Yeah, they didn't
you
slow,
got what you paid
they didn't
for,
slow
which
down
is
too
zip.
long. They heard a little of Wetzel's analysis, and they're like, let's keep going. That's not our spot. All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Appreciate it.